In pitbull combat, he was known for creating dogs with a powerful bite. And that's the last part of the Dogman interview. Sir Hughes, the man of the mountain. Jack Swinson, who owned Zebo Jr. He appears in the photo in Richard Stratton's book. He was a very tough dog, but as far as I know he didn't produce. I have pictures of him fighting a boomerang lineage dog. In the photo you can see Zebo Jr. biting his shoulder. You can see that the opponent's blood is running down his leg. But Jack Swinson told me he gave up the fight. They bred many dogs of the Zebo lineage in Ohio. And from the number of bitches he bred, he didn't breed well. I know I've had more dogs from the Zebo shed let me down than any other bloodline. One of the biggest problems I had with the Zebo bloodline was weak teeth. Every 3 dogs I put in a fight test, at least one lost its tooth. Bill Stepp had some dogs from the Zebo shed. Willie and Ruby were really good. Larry Combs told me that if he revealed all of Zebo's lineage wins, he would be at the top of the ROM list. I asked Mr. Hughes, "Do you think there is still a dog, from the Zebo line, that is of the same caliber as the living Zebo?" And he replied, "I've never seen McGee's Panther fight. But from the commentary on the skill they saw in him, I believe he is the closest to the Grand Champion Zebo that exists today." Then the conversation turned to Champion Homer Rom. I asked him, "How did you acquire Homer?" Mr. Hughes replied, "Homer began his life in Wayne Honeycutt's backyard. Wayne repeated a cross that Tony Marks had made. Little Rascal and Midnight. I went down there to see his dogs. He had about 20 to 30 puppies in his backyard. And Homer was one of them. The other pup was Festus, the other was Snooty, and the other was Monroe. I bought some puppies and after a while, I came back to buy Festus. I traded Festus for Snooty. They grew up. I was trying to book a fight with Snooty. There was a guy bragging about a dog from the Zebo line. I was agreeing with 20 kilos for the fight, but they wanted me with 19 kilos. So I traded Homer for Wayne Honeycutt, then I traded Snooty for Homer. The opponent wanted to change the weight again, so I never scored anything with them again. I stayed with Homer, put him in a test against a Zebo dog. He ruined the dog's jaw in 5 minutes. I had to take him out. I let Wayne take him to cross. Then I put Homer to fight. Against a dog, the son of the dog Gator, with a daughter of the Grand Champion Art. He was the best dog I saw fight Homer, but he also lost his teeth. Both dogs was a fighting style, who liked to bite the opponent's mouth. But it was a mistake for him to go mouth to mouth with Homer. His jaw and teeth were so strong, he could knock another dog's teeth out. That's the advantage of a dog, with a good, strong mouth. They can ruin another dog's mouth without damaging their teeth. I kept bits of bones and teeth that Zebo and Homer tore from their opponents. I gave the pieces to a guy who wanted to make a necklace out of them. Homer has fought 7 times, and 4 times with me. The first one wasn't difficult. A kid in South Carolina had a dog he had trained for a fight with D. Holcomb and I stopped him at 40 pounds. He was a dog of the Yellow John lineage. A week before the fight, the guy who was conditioning Homer called me. He told me that Homer was sick and that I'd better pay the fine. I paid the fine for not being able to fight, and I brought Homer to my house. When I was walking with him to put him on the chain, he bit some leaves that were on the bank of the river, and his fur was shining. I noticed that he would recover quickly if he was sick. I remembered the boy from South Carolina and scheduled a fight with him. His next fight was against Johnny Johnson. He said he had a dog, that he would finish Homer. It was a cross between Zebo and Red Boy. Boy, was he a very smart dog, and he had me worried for the first 20 minutes. He had Homer by the ear, and he was backing up fast. It didn't look like Homer could catch him. Homer was pushing him, and his opponent was holding. When the opponent touched the side of the ring with his tail, he would do a maneuver and reverse back in another direction. After 20 minutes, Homer managed to catch him, and more and hit the dog's chest. You could see the dog's eyes dilate every time Homer cornered him and pushed him. One of the Indians owned the dog, and the dog was his family pet. I told him, "He's killing your dog." Johnny laughed and told him, "He is trying to scare you because he is afraid of losing the battle." So I said, "It's his choice, my boy, let him continue." 58 minutes passed, their dog fell and could not fight anymore. After a short time the dog died. He won that fight, and another fight that followed, and he never got credit for them. I let Ken Murray prepare Homer to fight a dog that had beaten his brother. Ken called me weeks later and said, "We will have to pay the fine." Homer went through a plate glass window after a chicken, and cut off the whole head. I was a bit suspicious, especially when he offered to pay the fine for me. About a year later, one of his friends got into a fight with him and called me. He told me that one of Ken's friends had a dog, and they were getting ready for a fight. They thought their dog could kill Zebo. So Ken pitted him against this dog for $800, and Homer won the fight in 18 to 20 minutes. In his next fight, the guy who made the fight was Hensley, but the dog was Larry Jarrett and Irish Jerry named Barroom. He was a good dog, he was the whole fight after Homer, but he fought for over an hour. I said, "If you take the dog, I'll take mine too." And they said they would pick it up, to wait just another 5 minutes. They waited too long, the dog tried to fight back and fell. I got the Barroom myself, tried to see if he could scratch the courtesy. He tried harder to fall first. I tried to save the dog, but he died anyway. Then I booked a fight, with Eddie Frederick. He had a dog named Poison who had won a fight. He called me and said, "I think I have a dog that can defeat Homer." I told him that there was only one way to find out. So we agreed on a date. About 2 weeks later he called me and said that everyone was saying that Homer would kill his dog quickly. He said there were some boys up north who had 2 dogs and wanted to bet on them. And that I could compete with Homer, and he would compete with Poison on the other dog. If that was okay with me. I said it didn't matter to me, a dog is a dog. It was the Wreckers, and they showed up with a snooty woods dog, and a bully son bitch. Man, he was an excellent biter. He was biting very hard, but with less than 10 minutes, I already noticed that Homer was hurting that dog a lot. He was biting his paws, chest and was leading the fight. The other dog started to cry, but he was still struggling. The odds on that fight were 500 to 200, and we didn't get any bets. Eddie Pickard was standing next to me and he said, "Boy, looks like that dog is biting hard." I answered, "I can see he's biting." He was the dog that ruined Homer's face. Homer even bends his back when he was biting his face. Homer showed no weakness, so Homer put him down. The dog gave up in 28 minutes. He was weighing 3 pounds more than Homer. I just didn't accept the fine, because they said that if I paid the fine, they wouldn't put the dog. Then Mrs. Hughes said. One of Homer's struggles was just before Cole was born. All the smoke in the ring was making me sick, so I couldn't stay there. Homer was so deep in the dog's chest, you couldn't see his face. He would pick the dog up in the corner and keep digging deeper into the chest until you couldn't see much of his head but his ears. I don't know how he could breathe. His face had just healed, from the fight with the wrecker's dog. And that day, he had half his nose ripped off again. Then Mr. Hughes continued. I've never seen Homer bite anything but the shoulders. He had a big scar on one of his shoulders. I believe that it was the bar room that did it. I sold Homer to Ricky Jones for an insane amount. He tagged him in a fight, against a 50-pound dog. If I'd known, he would score a fight, with a much bigger dog. I would never have sold Homer to him. It took 2 hours and 2 minutes to kill that one. There has always been a rumor that Homer was a stray who would give up if he got into trouble, and in that last game he proved his gameness. Since he was fighting for more than an hour. It would be difficult to say which was the best dog he produced. There were many good dogs. I would have to say Spooky Grand Champion. Spooky is from Champion Homer's first cross to Susie. Champion Lil Bill and Spider Bite'em were the result of the second crossing. It was repeated a third time, but it had no offspring.
I do not promote, support or condone any violations of the Animal Welfare Act 1976. Or any other local, state and federal law. I am not affiliated with dogfighting in any way, or in any way. I am simply a pet owner and enthusiast of the American Pit Bull Terrier, and the great history and legacy passed down through the generations. I believe it is important to know where we came from to know where we are going. Articles posted are strictly for historical and educational purposes. I do not necessarily represent the views expressed in these articles. That was the last part of the interview with Mr. Hughes, the mountain man. My name is Rodolpho Luiz, and I invite everyone to enjoy the knowledge of this wonderful breed. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video. God bless you all. I went.